On the Columbia River Highway begins a unique and beautiful pathway, the Cascade Crest Trail. From the Columbia to Canada, it winds its wilderness way along forested valleys and barren ridges, past peak and glacier, river, and waterfall. The trail has no single climax feature. It leads from climax to climax. The first of these is Mount Adams. Climbing the south side affords views of peaks and glaciers far away in Oregon, and in spring and early summer a ski descent of more than a vertical mile. Here on the 4th of July, you wax your skis in a world of snow and look far down on the rich green world of summer. The climax feature immediately north of Mount Adams is the Goat Rocks Wild Area, where high basins are colorful with wildflowers. This is country made for pleasant walking. The trail leads through the basins, sometimes far above timberline. Here in the Goat Rocks is the southernmost substantial herd of mountain goats in America. Other animals, too, inhabit the wild area of the Goat Rocks. The bear are wilder than the goats. Snowgrass Flats is a spot ideal for camping, with views of Mount Adams and Mount St. Helens from the bedroom windows. Then, just around the corner, so to speak, the king himself, Mount Rainier, comes into view. The trail keeps climbing, and in this section, the Cascade Crest Trail reaches its highest point, over 7,000 feet above sea level. Nevertheless, it is not downhill all the way to Hogback Mountain near White Pass, where ski touring is excellent. Here on Hogback Mountain, the mists of storm freeze on the stunted timberline trees, adding to the beauty of the winter world. Everything is quiet here, pretty much as it has always been since the year one. The only ski tracks are the ones you yourself make, and the mountains around you are like old friends who are surprised but pleased to have you visit them in the snowy season. North of White Pass, the trail draws steadily closer to Mount Rainier and to the Alpine country around Chinook Pass. East of Chinook Pass and of the Crest Trail is a region of cliffs known as the Fife's Peak area, and we climbed there in search of mountain goats. We found the rock to be conglomerate, rough in texture, like coral. The first sign of goats was wool, rubbed off against a tree, so far above the ground that we knew the goat must have been standing on snow that had since melted. Then we found 2 dusting beds, some very fresh tracks, and we looked around to see that the goats had found us before we found them. That billy disappeared, but within a few minutes we discovered these 2 animals across the gully from us. We sat still to see what they would do. We enjoyed these ridiculous-looking animals in their tattered garments so much that we returned many times to learn what we could about them. We found that the nanny goats did not shed their hair and wool so early in the season as the billies did. Some almost inaccessible ledge was the nursery, and the newborn kid was kept there several days while his strength and courage increased. And after that, his mother took him on her forages for food. They traveled along the rim of the roughest terrain, so that safety was always just one jump away if danger threatened. Goats are social animals, and it isn't long after Junior is born before the various nannies forsake their isolation in favor of community living. Herding is safer for them because in a herd, all points of the compass are under surveillance most of the time. The kids enjoy herd life, for here they find others of that age when play is about the most important thing in life. And play is important, for it leads to valuable exercise and to practice of many of the arts of self-defense. To a youngster of the goat world, herd life also imposes its disciplines. Kids are kept agile by the threatening horns of their elders, who seem to keep reminding the young fellows of the goat version of mankind's old saying, "Children should be seen and not heard." Of all the wild animals in the Cascades, goats seem to just stand around the most. They do display short bursts of energy at times, but mostly they just seem to be posing. This, perhaps, is more of nature's wisdom. Goats are white to resemble patches of snow, and patches of snow are not often seen moving from place to place, at least not on the horizontal plane. The mountain lion or cougar was once the goat's greatest enemy, but the big cats have almost been exterminated. The coyote probably has few opportunities to sample goat meat, but the herd must stay alert or we will surely steal a kid. The adult goat has horns like stilettos. This one seems to be polishing his in anticipation of that coyote. The goat in his dust bed, dusting himself, is a common sight. The dusting serves at least two purposes. It darkens his coat during the time when snow is scarce, and it combats the goat's number one enemy, the tick. Ticks weaken goats, making them unable to resist disease or to survive rugged winters. It is doubtful if bears disturb goats much, though they might be close neighbors. Probably ticks bother the bears too, as they certainly do the rabbits, the elk, and the deer. The deer also inhabit rough country. They aren't as good as goats on steep rock, but they are very capable climbers. Elk and their calves also summer in the high mountain world, but they are more often to be seen around the mountain meadows than on rough ground. West of Chinook Pass, Mount Rainier National Park also is a wonderful place to study the lives of goats. They often are seen in the Cowlitz chimneys and sometimes far up on the glaciers of the mountain itself. A large herd is likely to contain goats of all ages, so it is not surprising that tantrums and temperament are often on display. Sometimes the mood of the community is unstable, and chain reactions of play or ill temper are set up. This particular herd contained goats that were going around together, or perhaps it would be more appropriate to describe them as traveling in the same circles. The fretfulness of a few soon had the entire herd on the move. Perhaps, being proud animals, goats are ill-tempered in summer because of their tattered appearance. In September, when the first snows have fallen and melted, new garments, including neat pantaloons, have restored the animals' pride. Now they are beautiful again, alert, and inclined to move more and to laze around less. The kids have gained enough in size and strength to stand a good chance of surviving the Cascadian winter. One of their furry neighbors is the marmot. He doesn't have to worry about foraging for food when snows are deep. He just lives off his fat. Back on the Crest Trail at Chinook Pass, you still might see a goat under Crystal Peak. You surely will see flowers, not all as showy as this beargrass. The trail climbs high above the highway, with cars whizzing along far below. Soon you arrive at Sheep Lake, which is set in an emerald basin under Sourdough Pass. On this day, Marion, who is usually quite sane, claimed to see herself in the pass, which of course was impossible. But I looked up there, and after I'd stared for a while, it almost seemed why women can get more things in a pack. But she'll need a lot more than that, and you can't convince me that, well, it's just impossible, that's all. Well, oh, this is absurd, and I don't believe, I just simply don't believe it. But it does look as though she made it, for here she comes, skiing at the head of Morse Creek. Crest Trail country is attractive in winter, as you can see. Here we find the ptarmigan, the grouse of the high places, who depends on his white feathers to hide him from his enemies. He looks like a living snowball with the feathery softness of new snow. His tracks are often easier to see than he is. But when winter snows have melted away and skis are stored for the season, summer is at its finest in the Crest country northeast of Mount Rainier. Here, the high ridges are big parks, colorful with wildflowers. They also contain wildlife, and the deer and the elk, and an occasional bear and mountain goat, find the food they need in abundance. Summer does not bring unmixed blessings to the animals. True, they eat well, but summer also is the season of biting insects, and this bull elk, seeking relief in a shallow pool, pictures the battle he must wage with bugs from sunrise to sunset. Following the Crest Trail north again, we reach the rough country north of Snoqualmie Pass. Dutch Miller Gap is one of the most beautiful mountain passes to be found. Lake Ivanhoe lies just east of the gap, and fishing is always good in so beautiful a spot. The water from Lake Ivanhoe ultimately flows into Waptus Lake a few miles distant. There are many pretty lakes in the region. Shovel Lake discharges its water in this powerful falls. These lakes lie west of the Cle Elum River. East of the Cle Elum River, right on top of the ridge of Granite Mountain, is Robin Lakes, where the Crest Trail may someday be built. This is magnificent high country, with views of icy peaks and many lakes lying in granite bowls which were carved by ancient glaciers. Stevens Pass accommodates a busy arterial lying across the Crest Trail. The sign says that Glasses Lake is 13 miles distant, and here it is, its name derived from its spectacle-like shape. North of here, the crest becomes a vast park, where the blueberries in season are as fine as you will find anywhere. Lake Sally Ann lies right on the trail, providing an excellent camp spot. It's pretty cold for swimming, even in the heat of midsummer. The trail leads north of Lake Sally Ann toward Glacier Peak through more blueberry country. Of course, where there are berries, there are bears. Young bucks like berries too. Some of the finest alpine scenery in America lies along the crest northeast of Glacier Peak. Dome Peak rises in a region of many glaciers. The Crest Trail follows the valleys to the east, for trail building is not practical along much of this rugged and icy range. At Hart's Pass, the trail again traverses country similar to that south of Glacier Peak, with the big peaks lying to either side. Windy Pass lies in a beautiful meadow looking across at Mounts Azurite and Ballard. Traveling is easy, and because the trail is high, the views are inspiring. Camps can safely be made anywhere in this high world, and there's nothing like a wilderness camp for real living. The deer that come around seem to be asking you to stay longer, or at least to come back soon. The ground squirrel is more impersonal. He just scratches. East of the high crest is the Pasayten Valley, where the Pasayten River, the color of lime jello, will allow you trout for dinner and a little while of fishing. We took a side trip from there, and in a high basin called Pleasant Valley, we were surprised to find this radio sonde, a weather transmitting instrument deposited there by some storm. While going north on the Pasayten River Trail, we saw this Franklin grouse. He is called a fool hen because, like the ptarmigan, he believes that you cannot see him. He must be right most of the time, or he could not have survived. When you look up the trail and see this sign, your long trip from the Columbia is about over. Monument 83 Lookout is named for the monument of that number along the Canadian border. It rests on a flowered hilltop just inside the American line, and the Forest Service man on duty spots Canadian as well as Washington fires. The old lookout station inside Canada is no longer used. So ends our picture story of some of the Cascade Crest Trail in its long journey from the Columbia to Canada, and of birds and animals that make the trail a living experience.